Okay.
Hey everyone, welcome back. Another episode of Video Game Collectors on Call. So, for the first time ever on this show, we have a two-time guest. So, everyone, please welcome back MattyNewy to the show.
Hello.
How's it going? How are
Good.
you
How you
doing?
doing?
Good, good. Welcome back to the show. The first
Glad to be here.
two-time guest to ever appear on Video Game Collectors on Call. Pretty soon, I don't know if you watch SNL. They have the Five Timers Club.
Yeah,
You may one day be on the Five Timers Club of
possibly.
Video Game Collectors on Call.
Yeah.
So the reason I invited Matty back on the show is I wanted to do a show, maybe not about a collection or someone's collecting or anything like that, but about cleaning games and how to preserve them and how to make them look nice. Because a lot of times we go to stores and we have these games that maybe we don't buy because they might be a lot of work or we don't know how to clean them. So Matty, I'll kind of let you take it away from there and just kind of start
Yeah,
talking.
so obviously in my travels with collecting and growing a collection, you kind of come across games that are worth adding to your collection but can be kind of dirty. And that's when you get the chance to get them for a discounted price. So I don't mind diving in and getting a game that looks like it might have been in a flood,
Right, right,
knowing that
yeah.
it will still work again.
But
Because
some people do. Some people
yeah,
do. Like they see that and they're like, I'm not buying that.
yeah, and that kind of opens it up now. I mean, it's been so many years now when you're talking about like games like specifically like the original Nintendo games that some of these are starting to look a little worse for wear because they're reaching that 30 to even 40-year-old point. So you're going to want to have to do some yearly maintenance on them to keep them good for another 30 or 40 years. So there's a whole bunch of different techniques. I'm constantly learning as it goes with that. So I started off originally ignoring the back of the Nintendo label where it says "Do not use isopropyl alcohol." Um, Funny story about that is they put that on there because they just wanted to sell their cleaning kit, which was at the end of the day isopropyl alcohol.
Oh, interesting.
So it really is the same cleaning solution that you would use to clean the games that Nintendo used. I think there might have been a concern that people didn't know what they were doing with it, so they could damage the game. So they
Hmm.
created their whole little cleaning card set up that you put the isopropyl alcohol on, and then you kind of swished it through there.
Yeah.
But mostly when it comes to cleaning the pins on the old cartridge games, it's fairly simple. And you can just take a high amount of isopropyl alcohol. I usually use 92%. I get 99% when I'm doing some like more delicate cleaning
Okay.
because obviously the more pure the alcohol, the better it is for electronics and it evaporates faster. But if you're just doing like quick cleaning, you can just run down to CVS or Target or Walmart, what have you, and pick up a 92% isopropyl alcohol, and that'll work
It's
great.
it's
Fix
usually
your pins good.
in the medical aisle, right? Because
Yeah,
it's
oh
for
yeah,
like
yep,
when it's yeah,
right
yeah,
over by the
yeah,
pharmacy. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
the beautician aisle
Right. Oh yeah, for nails and stuff.
for
Yeah.
nails and stuff. Yeah. But yeah, so like just taking a Q-tip with some isopropyl alcohol, making sure you get those pins cleaned off from all the years of spit and grime that's been getting on them from everybody blowing on the cartridges.
Yeah. So don't blow in the cartridge. Is that the
Yeah,
new
pretty much.
paradigm that we live in?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean it worked though, and the reason why it worked because it added a little bit of moisture to that contact, which kind of increased the connectivity for our wonderful friend electricity.
Yeah. Okay.
And would kind of give that little jump that it needed to work for a while. Obviously, sometimes when you blew on the cartridges, it was a gamble because you didn't know when it was going to zap out again on you.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Some
doing
people.
a good maintenance cleaning on it, it really gets the game working like it did out of the box back in 1989, and it'll run fine for a number of years before you even have to go back and clean it.
I think when some people blow on cartridges, some people have a little more spit involved, so it's a little, your mileage may vary depending on who you are and how much you throw some saliva in with that.
Yeah,
So,
I don't know how you did it, but like I always remember, like I didn't like blowing right into them, so I
uh,
wanted there to be a little bit of a barrier, so I always put them under my t-shirt and then blew into them.
okay, yeah.
It
No, I
just
just I just raw dogged it, yeah, 100%. So it was, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So I want to talk about one of my arch enemies on video games, stickers. Okay, I hate
yes,
stickers. You go to stores, you see people put stickers. So I don't know if I told you this, but I went to a store and they had sealed games, right? And so they have the plastic on, and on top of that plastic, they put their stickers on for the prices. And I was like, man, why are you doing that? No one's going to be able to remove that. So how can we remove stickers?
so there's a bunch of different methods. To just go on what you saw at the store, a lot of retro game stores now, I don't know if this one in particular that you saw it, but there are a adhesive, non-adhesive, I want to call them, type of sticker now that doesn't damage cardboard and stuff like that. So like you can put them on there and they easily come off. No sticker residue, no anything.
But
So
this was on the plastic. You know how like a sealed
oh,
game,
they
and
did
then
it on
you
the
have the
plastic.
plastic. Yeah, and then it was
Yeah,
on there.
it
Yeah.
is like there are stickers that will come right off of that still, but I don't know if
Okay.
I don't. It's up to
I
the game
wasn't.
store. I
Yeah, I
doubt
wasn't
that
taking a
they.
chance. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I doubt that they might have done that the right way. You'd always ask if you ever find yourself in a game store and do that. Hey, like, listen, what kind of stickers did you just put on this? Because you might have ruined the value of it. I have
Yeah.
no qualms about doing that because like
Yeah.
you
I
kind of
thought
gotta let
about
people
it.
know. It's always a learning experience.
Yeah.
So you kind of just like, like, hey, you're kind of doing a disservice to the game there by doing that, unless you're using those new style stickers that can actually just easily peel off. But my go-to is a little bit of heat. So what I'll do is I'll take a hair dryer. Some people use heat guns, but that gets a little dangerous because obviously heat guns are such a higher grade of
Yeah.
heat. You don't want to, you can get into the realm of starting to melt things. But what you really want to do is you need to agitate the glue that's on that sticker. So heat, introducing heat as the source, waving over it a few times, and then I have a little pick that I use that I kind of like just test the waters on it to see if the adhesive is starting to kind of, loosen up. And from there, it's just a very delicate, time-consuming process. You want to take your time with it. You want to make sure that you're able to peel it clean. You're always going to have a little bit of leftover residue, but like that's the next step that you'll go into after that. But you want to try as best as possible to get that sticker off in one piece. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like a little game, like that you got to play with it. If it's on a label, things get a little dicier, obviously,
Right.
because some labels are laminated, so that's good. Like they're very durable, and you don't have to worry about it. Sega games, however, it gets a little tricky because sometimes the adhesive seeps into the label.
Okay.
So even though if you can get it clean off, you might still have a shadow layer on that where you'll still
So
see it. There's some tricks to get it off, but it gets a little bit more difficult. So,
So you're talking
um,
about cartridges now, right? So if we have a
yeah.
cartridge, what if we have it on like a box of a game or something? Is that a little
So
more tricky, I assume?
it's a little tricky. Isopropyl alcohol comes into play a little bit more on that too. You sometimes want to kind of take a high, like a 99%, and dip it on the sticker itself, so that way it kind of gets into the glue from the top, and you can kind of start loosening it up that way. When you're dealing with the boxes with cardboard, though, it gets real tricky.
Yeah.
Once again, kind of like heat's your friend on that one. You want to heat it up and get the glue off without damaging the box. So I would always probably start with the heat method first, and then you start employing like different techniques. But with a box, the box, the outside of a cardboard box, has that print on it, and it's a little bit more durable than the inside is because the insides are usually not finished. So it
Yeah.
has that finished gloss layer to it a little bit, so you have that leeway to play with it. I've seen a bunch of people get stickers off of boxes on Reddit, and I've kind of read up on techniques for doing that. I haven't tackled one myself because I don't really collect the boxes as
Sure.
much. But
Yeah.
but yeah, it's easy. It's I wouldn't say it's easy, but it's doable. It's
Yeah.
just the biggest thing when you're dealing with sticker removal is that it's a patience game. Like you really don't want to go haphazardly into it. You have to just sit down, put on some tranquil music in the background, and just kind of zen out and know that it's going
Yeah.
to take. It could take an hour to remove something if
Yeah.
you really want to get at it. But that's kind of part of the fun of it for me. Um, you get into that fun tranquility of it, like, all right, I can do this. It's going to take a little time. So
Yeah.
almost like an art in a way to like get
Yeah.
it
It's like
back
a
to
challenge. Yeah.
yeah. So
So there are also several different kinds of stickers I've seen, kind of like you mentioned, but there is a certain sticker. I don't know if you are familiar with it. I think Blockbuster had them, and they look metallic almost.
the
Now,
security stickers.
does your technique change for that?
So I've taken a few of those off. They are the more resilient stickers. If it's on a label, it's still most of the time, believe it or not, heat. And then the second process when you're dealing with the residue after you get that peeled off is isopropyl alcohol in gradual steps, lightly going over it, soaking it. Sometimes even Goo Gone to really kind of start breaking down. I'll let that sit on there. I use that very sparsely when I'm doing it, like just literally a droplet on a Q-tip and wave it over the residue and let it sit, and I watch it. Like I don't ever want Goo Gone or any substance like that to kind of seep in around the label itself. So it's a very intricate process where you're just kind of doing very small sections at a time to remove that glue.
Some people I know actually leave the stickers on and have no intentions of ever removing them because they say it's part of the history of the game or whatnot. Do you have any words on that?
I have a few games that I do save the stickers on. So when I first got into collecting, I was like, no, absolutely not. It has to be pristine and back
Right.
to its original standing. And then I started coming across games that had stickers on like the back cartridge that were from mom and pop stores that maybe don't exist now. So like that to me struck me as being historic
Yeah.
then, because like this was a shop in some small town in New Hampshire that clearly isn't around anymore, but it's cool that it has a label on it. And those labels, I mean those stickers are the ones where those mom and pop stores kind of took pride in putting it on there.
Yeah.
So they're placed the right way. They're not put over the label of the game. They're put on the back. They're kind of you can see, like I have one where they put it. It's a really nice label too, and they put it on the back underneath so that way it was its own spot, and it was
Oh yeah, like
symmetrical and
underneath where
everything.
yeah, I
Yeah,
know what you're talking about. I've
and they
seen
made it
that.
look nice and symmetrical. I was like, well, I'm never going to take that off. So I started kind of changing my perspective a little bit and grew with what I was going to decide to take off. The big no-no for me is that if they have it on the main label. So if
Okay,
it's
then you're not
blocking,
tackling it. Yeah.
if it's blocking the main label itself, it's gone. I take it off. But
Okay.
if it's placed somewhere else on the cartridge that looks aesthetically pleasing, then I'll be like, okay, you can stay. Blockbuster is the most notorious for ruining games, in my opinion, by putting ugly stickers over them. However, the older blockbusters, they usually like put them on the back. So were the rare games or games that were only sold at Blockbuster, like the Flintstones, having that sticker on it is kind of a historic piece. Then,
Yeah,
so
like
you kind of want to keep
Clay
that.
Fighter has the
Play Fighter. If
sticker.
Play Fighter
Yeah.
has that Blockbuster sticker on it, you're
Yeah.
doing it a disservice to remove it.
Right. Right.
But if you're taking Tailspin,
Sure. Yeah.
like I bought a Tailspin. I got a deal for it because they put three Blockbuster stickers all around it. You could barely even see
Wow.
what the game was
Yeah.
outside of the top of the label.
Huh.
So I wound up getting that for a few bucks, and I took the time and I did a whole video on it. I think the video got corrupted and is no longer around. I used to have it on my TikTok, I think, but that one had the big blue yellow Blockbuster across the whole thing. So I
Gotcha.
removed that, and you would have never known now. The game looks pristine.
Okay. That's
So,
awesome. So we talked about stickers. Let's move on to another arch nemesis that people have on games, and you probably know what's coming: Sharpie. So
yes.
you see Sharpie written on cartridges, even discs. Sometimes you see it. So what can we do to get that away?
Sharpie, believe it or not, I started out using isopropyl alcohol, and you drop it on there, let it sit for a moment, and then just start trying to wipe it gently off. It does well.
I
Believe it or
find
not,
it smears a little bit.
it does
When
smear a
you
little bit, so it's kind
yeah
of when you're dealing obviously with that liquid on top of it, you're creating a little bit more of a mess. So you kind of have to work at it for a little while to get it taken care of. Magic eraser, do not use magic eraser. You'll just
okay
strip. You'll like what you're doing is it's a fine grade sandpaper at the end of the day, so it looks like it's pulling the Sharpie off well, but it's also removing part of the surface. So if you go at it
yeah
too
because
hard,
these games have little dimples. They're not completely smooth, and so I see what you're
yeah.
saying.
So
Yeah.
you will. I made the mistake early on. It wasn't that important of a game, but I was working at it, and I was like, "Oh no, I just put a polished finish on."
Yeah, you have a
on
nice
this.
polished copy of
Yeah,
Super Mario World or something.
yeah. So I was like, "Oh no!" Like, okay, so lesson learned with that, um, which is unfortunate that it happened, but it is a learning process. So like, there's plenty of those games out there, so it's not something that was lost that was like special, but. That's where I put the air of caution. Like, really do your research if you're going to start trying to clean games, because you can damage them in the process. So yeah, so I've learned a lot. What I do now actually is dry erase marker, believe it or not, works extremely well a lot of the time. And you just literally take a dry erase marker, you write over the area of Sharpie that's on there, and then take a paper towel or a cleaning cloth of some sort and then just wipe it, and it will just come right out. It somehow reactivates the permanent
Yeah.
marker,
Are you
and
when you say so? Do you just scribble across it, or you like if it says like property of Tom, then you're writing property
I'll
of
write
Tom?
property of Tom.
Okay,
Yeah, like I'll just kind of trace over it, and then I'll start wiping it away.
interesting.
Um, at first, what I was trying to do, because I was using isopropyl alcohol a lot back then, was I would put the Sharpie over it. I mean, the dry erase marker over it, and then I would take the isopropyl alcohol and try to wipe it off, and that made a huge mess.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, that's like
Yeah,
overkill. Yeah.
yeah, it was. It actually made it worse too because what it did was it shifted some of it over to another spot, and then that became more difficult to get off. So dry erase marker and then just wiping it like you're cleaning a dry erase board actually does wonders. And then if there's anything left, then you can kind of go back in there with another cleaning solution of some sort and try.
Now, again, I think a lot of our conversation has been on cartridges, like Nintendo 64, NES, SNES. What about like jewel cases for PlayStation, or maybe like even a disc surface that has marker on it? Is that all the same?
So disc surfaces, I haven't really dealt with too much. I tend to like I kind of avoid them a little bit. If you're talking about the jewel cases, those are usually easy to get rid of marker and stuff like that. Kind of similar things. You can still use the
Yeah.
Sharpie. You could still use a heat to pull a sticker. You can use those same methods, and you're not really going to do too much damage. If the jewel case is cracked or whatever, then I look for a replacement from an old CD or what have you, because those jewel cases are the same pretty much. And then it's just kind of exchanging some things because those, let's face it, jewel cases are not the strongest, and they took a beating when we were younger. So to
Right.
like find PlayStation 1 games in mint condition jewel cases is a rarity. I have some ones that just kind of like fold out and break
Oh
out.
yeah, yeah. They don't really open, or they're yeah. No, I know what you're
Yeah.
talking about. Yeah.
But as for the discs, discs are a little bit trickier. Sometimes I'm going to say like if you have a Sharpie, I haven't looked too much into it, but I have obviously perused it. I never came across any of my discs that I've collected that have had Sharpie on it. Um, I feel like that kind of phased out a little bit.
Yeah, you don't see it a lot, but every once in a while one
Yeah,
comes through.
but the thing is that the data is actually on that top part of the disk. So to start trying to wipe away that, you could actually really damage the disk very quickly, and you kind of don't want to. I would leave it be if the game works.
Yeah. What about disk resurfacing? Do you do any of that, or do you have a resurfacer that you
So I
use?
don't have a resurfacer at the moment. I did back in the day, and like I used to clean games. I worked for a video store, and we had a resurfacer, and like we did a whole bunch back then too, with DVDs and everything. Once again, that's something that you kind of need to do your research and your homework on, or else what you're just going to do is just burn right through it and kill the
Yeah.
data.
Yeah.
So um,
Because they have these cheap ones like on Amazon. They're like 50, $60, right? And you just
yeah,
like crank the little
yeah,
wheel
the
as it
doctor,
turns and
just
stuff. Yeah.
doctors,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So, and then they also have, I think, like the $600 ones that, you put in and turn it on. And
yeah.
so,
So like so this is something that can never confirm, and I haven't really like done too much research on it. I think PlayStation 1 games you could never use those disc doctors on
oh,
because they had that security layer that's why they were all black on the bottom.
black. Okay.
Yeah, so like if you start messing with that and trying to resurface it, you kind of corrupt it. So I've always just gently sprayed and wiped down the disc, and when you clean the discs, what you want to do is you want to work your way out just in like a
Right. Yeah.
from the middle. You don't want to actually try to
Ra-
like do a
yeah,
polishing.
like radially. Yeah.
Yes.
It's
Yep.
a $10 word, but yeah.
Yep. Yes. Work the radius.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's why I didn't. I had some Dreamcast games. There was one I didn't know at the time. It was my copy of Crazy Taxi. Just stopped playing one day. I didn't know what was wrong with it, so I tried resurfacing it, and then I resurfaced it again, and it would kind of like go to the loading screen and then just not work. So I never understood what was wrong with it until a few years back now, when I was looking it up again. I realized that there's something called disk rot,
Oh, yeah.
and like so like you didn't know when back then, like nobody knew disc rock was, and I've only ever come across one or two games tops that have had that. And the Crazy Taxi one, like once I looked at it, you could actually see that there is that moisture barrier was corrupted. That's the thing that people have to worry about now because these discs are getting older. So I feel like a lot of people kind of discarded them and they just put them in their basement
Yeah,
and
yeah.
or attic or whatever where it's not really climate controlled.
Moisture, yeah.
Moisture will eventually, like anything, get into stuff and just start messing with it.
So you talked about PlayStation 1 games being black, and I feel like I've read this somewhere and it just skips my mind right now, but some PS2 games are blue and some
Yeah.
are clear, right? So
Yeah.
why the difference?
So there's two variants. One was a DVD, and I think the other one was I might be wrong in this, but actually, Video Game Restoration just did a whole video about that where he was fixing one,
Okay.
and he was over here a while back now, and we were both going through all my PlayStation 2 games to see if we had all three variants. So there's actually three variants for PlayStation 2. It's the clear, which is the DVD. Then there's the blue, and then there's like a different color. I can't remember exactly what it was. It might be green. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I've
Yeah,
not seen
but
one of
there's
those.
like it's just different types of discs. Like one's DVD compatible, so like you actually like, throw it in the DVD player and like play a video or like some music or something like that. Yeah.
First started, and I'm no expert in this, believe me. But I want to talk about reproductions or maybe fake games or things that we see
Yes.
that aren't real. So jump in anytime here.
Yep.
But I'm going to start with NES really. So I don't know how well this will come through, but I have Ducktales here. So this Ducktales is not a reproduction. This is real. So again, I don't know how well you can see, but there's like a little number right there. That's one way that I determine these cartridge games are not reproductions. That's true on Super Nintendo as well. Let me see. It's up here. It's, again, very hard to see, but I promise you it's up there. I think it says 55.
Yeah.
And then this is a reproduction. So this is a Nintendo 64 Conker's Bad Fur Day. So this is not an original game. And back here you can see again there's no number where there should be a number. And it,
That's
and it just
actually
looks
that's actually pretty good. Hold on, I'm gonna grab my copy.
okay.
Color.
The other thing while Maddie's up walking around is if you look here. I don't know again how well this is going to come across, but where the pins are down here, it's very white. It's very like it almost looks new. It's like very pristine. This doesn't look like a game that's been around for like 20 years, right? And it's just kind of white in color. And I have a different one here. This is actually a real game, and you can see the difference where it's kind of brown, I guess you could say, not white.
Fade it a little bit. It's got its
Yeah,
use.
yeah, exactly. So you had a Conkers.
Yeah. So this is my. Oops, I'm doing.
And the other thing about this label too, and again, I don't know how well this comes across, but it just looks so shiny and new, like someone printed it, in the year
Yeah,
2010.
that's
In the year
that's usually the
2010.
dead giveaway.
Yeah,
So here's Mike. You can
yeah,
already see the difference.
yeah.
And then there's your, like you were saying, I don't know if I have to light too much, but there's the darker color. And then on the back, you have the number standard
Yep,
41
yep,
over there. So it's
exactly.
really interesting, and that's what I wanted to zoom in on. Pull yours up and pull it up to the Nintendo.
So the Nintendo on the plastic.
Yeah, right here that I got zoomed. So one of the giveaways,
Oh, it's the eye, isn't it?
yeah, it's the eye, which it actually looks like they did a decent job on that one because the
Yeah,
eye, the square, so they got that right.
yeah. So a lot of times, yeah, what he's talking about is the repros will have a circle for the dot on the eye, right? And it should be a square. And yeah, you're
So
right. They did do pretty well on this one.
So what I'm actually thinking is that what that is that actually might be an authentic cart itself,
Hmm.
the outside shell.
Yeah.
So because that's something I've not heard that they're able to replicate yet, and it has the correct screws on it. So I think
Yeah.
somebody just reshelled.
It could be. Yeah. And put new stickers here and then, yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah. So
Um,
but yeah, that's the labels are usually a quick giveaway. Um, Obviously, it's that eye that you want to keep an eye out for. If you see that, if there's ever any suspicion, you want to open it up and you want to see if it's the actual game that's in there.
If I spend triple digits on any game, I always ask the owner, please open it up, let me look at it. And if they say
Yes.
no, then I'm like, okay, I'm not going to buy it then.
Yep.
So I think
Yeah,
that's definitely a good
that's the
rule.
best thing you can do. You want to walk in that scenario. You don't want to just kind of hang around and deal with that because that's to me somebody that's being a little shady.
Yeah, and I have Conkers as a repro. There's no problems playing it. I still play it, so it's just not an original. I wouldn't be able to. I wouldn't if I was ever to sell this. I wouldn't say, oh, this is a real version of Conkers. So the other thing that I have a few of to show is some sealed retro games as well. So I have this copy of Metal Gear, and again, I don't know how well this will show up, but there's kind of like a faint line that goes across there, like a seam. You can kind of
Oh
see it
yeah, there
better
it is.
here. Yeah, so there's a seam that goes across the back of these NES games when they're sealed. So that's a good telltale sign that this is a real seal. I don't have any fakes to kind of show, but you also see that on Nintendo 64 games. So this is a perfect dark that's sealed. And again, let's see. I think it's slightly off center usually. So this one is a little bit to the right there. I think you can kind of see it. Yeah. And it's in a plastic case as well, but that's the vertical seam there. The other thing that they have, and I don't think this, oh yeah, it does. I don't know if you can see these, but there's little holes. There's one kind of right there above her left outer eyebrow.
Yep.
It's right in the center of the
Those
screen.
bring back memories because I remember getting those games from the store and going
Yeah,
home and then using those little holes in my fingernail
as a
just
way to
like that
open
was how
it.
I started opening
Yeah,
it.
no, they were definitely a good way to open it, but thankfully, that it's a way that we can tell whether or not they're real. And then I have a PlayStation game, so I have Resident Evil here. The thing I look for on these is the corners where the seal is. You have these folds or these seams, and again, it's not focusing like I really want it to. Let me see if I can force it to kind of.
Almost got it.
Yeah, it's trying, but essentially, there's like a little. No, there we go. You can kind of see how it folds over itself and makes like a little Y pattern. So that's a good telltale sign that this has not been resealed. I mean, I guess of course someone could do that and reseal it that way. And then you also, of course, look for the sticker on top that seals the
Yeah,
game.
the sticker is the biggest thing on the
Yeah.
PlayStation 1 games
So, yep. And
because that
then
was as soon as you opened it, that was gone.
and then the hang tabs here too. I don't think I've ever seen anyone replicate those, but
No.
I mean, if it has a hang tab, it's most likely real. And then again, just with newer games, this is a newer Xbox One game, but it also does that. So any sort of, I guess, boxed games like PS2, PS1, those kind of things, PS5 will have that kind of seal, and they still have a little sticker. So like Xbox has their own sticker here. And then I know you had shown some boxes the other day in terms of real versus not real. Do you want to talk about that briefly?
Yeah, so I mean, there's there's a bunch of people. There's Etsy stores, and there's now this company TCG Paper that I kind of came across that I really like. Um, Boxes in general, especially for the original games, like Nintendo, the original systems, they're coming harder and harder to get a hold of in good condition. If they are in good condition, they command a really high price. And for me, collecting is about playing the games, so it's not necessarily about locking them away in a plastic box and never really playing them. So I was never as interested with collecting the boxes. I do like the fact of having it complete, but just from a collector standpoint, the prices are getting out there and out of control now, and it kind of doesn't make sense to me. You want to have something nice on your wall if you're going to display it. Why would you have a beat up old box that smells like mildew
Right. Yeah.
when you can just go and get something that's a high quality reproduction that almost looks like the original, perfectly, and have that on display then too, and just like it's kind of doing like a restoration work on the video games now instead of all original. So that's why I really like. I bought a few boxes. I got a few that I'm gonna do a couple things with, and like those rare games like Bucky O'Hare, like it's super rare to find a box, and if you are, it's going to command high dollars. So like
Yeah.
for $7, I could have that box again, which those boxes were never meant to survive. You know,
Right.
everybody knew that. Like they were built so like some kid could just rip into them and start playing with
Yeah.
the game.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, in my opinion, like the instruction manual is kind of important. Like that is something that like got you through like the start of the game, especially like the Zelda ones where it kind of
Hmm.
gave you hints as to
Yeah.
what to even start to do at first, which I always thought was really cool. Um,
You were
but
talking about with the boxes too that the inside is important. So if you
yes,
find
the
one and
inside's
it's
important. So
yeah.
the original Nintendo boxes, they're not finished, so it has that cardboard look to them still when you open them up. Reproductions now, which I think is a really good thing because it makes it easy to tell that they're reproductions. Then usually have that white cardstock inside, which is a better quality box at the end of the day then too that you're kind of getting your hands on for a good price. But like you're able to see like, okay, like this is clearly a reproduction. I'm not going to pull the wool over anybody's eyes trying to, if I go to sell my collection, say that these are all original.
Yeah.
So I think
Yeah.
I think that's a really fair thing that's kind of evolved on its own just in the realm of what we're collecting.
Yeah. I want to, while we're talking about cases and boxes and stuff, I want to give a special shout out to, I think it's gamecases.com. So I bought actually a whole bunch of Sega Saturn cases. So I had all these Sega Saturn games. I wanted a way to put them up on the shelf. And like you said, when I was, boxes were, garbage. They weren't really useful and they just were gotten rid of. And so they have these really cool cases. They make them for
Those are
every
awesome.
system. Yeah. And this is great. And then on the inside, I don't have a manual, but you just have a spot for the game, and they make them for every system. I think I have a cartridge of Snowboard Kids that I picked up a while back, and it came in this case. I'm not sure if they made this one or not. It doesn't say on here who made it, but it looks kind of like their work. Well, yeah, maybe not. Yeah, it looks kind of like their work, but I'm not 100% sure if they actually did it or not. So,
Yeah, the thing with it now though too is that like I feel like that we're reaching that point. Kind of like, and I always equate this to classic cars because that's something that's been around for a very long time, and it was the natural thing. Like there was the people that wanted to collect the original and have it pristine, like it just came off the car, show floor, and like I want my 1965 Pontiac GTO to like be exactly all the same. But then as things have gone on, those classic cars become fewer and fewer, and then you have restored cars. So it's not all the original parts, but it still commands the same dollar value, as the original classic did. And then you
right.
have now resto mods. So we're all the same things happening with video games. You're seeing people that are starting to reshell the games and have multicolored carts now. They have the hologram labels that a couple of Etsy sellers are making now, which are, in my opinion, even better than the labels that were originally on the game. So like it's kind of like evolving, and I think this whole market where you're having these ultra pristine games that are getting slabbed and like tucked away, like that's going to start to dwindle, and I think
Yeah.
you're going to start seeing like a leveling out of the prices because people are going to start, restoring games too. Like they're going to come
Yeah.
across that copy of Bonk's Adventure that the label was some kid scratched the label off of.
Yeah.
So it's still Bonk's Adventure. You play it, it's perfectly fine, but hey, throw a new label on it.
I hope you're right. I hope prices start to, at least stabilize or come down. I really want to play Kuon, but I don't want to spend $950 to do that.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
I'm a big fan of survival horror games. So
Yeah,
that's
same.
on my list.
Yeah,
Have
and
you
a lot
played?
of them are command high dollar now, so it's like, ugh.
I feel like all of the survival horror games, the Silent Hills, the Resident Evils, they're all way up there in
Yeah.
price.
And
So
then the Haunting Ground, that one is crazy money now.
I have it, but I haven't played it yet. So I
Ah,
do want to play it. Yeah.
it's
What's
on my
the
list, but like I will only purchase it if I like come across it at a garage sale. Like I'm
that
not.
one and I think Obscure is another one that I need to play that I have. Yeah. So there's quite a few of those that I need to play, but that's kind of all I had in terms of reproductions,
Yeah.
or looking at fakes. But are you playing anything right now? Are you in the midst of any game?
So two games that I've been really wanting to play, and I got this one. This is actually might be a little bit side conversation that works out. So I picked up the Rugrats game by Limited Run Games.
Did it ruin your NES?
It did not ruin the NES. Did you hear
Okay.
about this?
I've heard that the game what's wrong with the
So
cartridges?
so apparently, Limited Run. outsourced to a different manufacturer to cover the amount of games that were ordered for Nintendo, and it was this one, and I can't remember what the name of it is. It's some other. I think it was a PAL game that they made like a US version for to be released because that's what they've been doing now too is updating games that haven't come out for the US market originally, and they're re-releasing them. And what wound up happening is that manufacturer used the wrong chipboard, so that it's like a 3.3 volt chipboard and PCB, I mean, and the Nintendo works on 5 volts. So what's happening is you're getting obviously a surge going on in the Nintendo, for lack of a better term, that's starting to overheat the game. And then what it winds up doing is that feeds back into the Nintendo, and it starts frying the components of the Nintendo over time. So it's not an immediate the Nintendo's going to explode, but you're going to damage
Right.
it and it won't work one day.
Over time, yeah. But how many? So I feel like, and maybe I'm wrong. Most people who buy like a limited run game, how many of them are actually playing it? I feel like a lot of them keep it sealed, save it. You know what I mean? Like
So
that's
I think there is that venture of it, but from what I like personally, me, like I went out and got that game because I wanted to play it, and I
yeah, yeah,
planned on
yeah,
playing the heck out of it.
yeah.
So like if I was going to truly collect it, would I have bought one and then have one sealed? Maybe, but I see games like Jay and Silent Bob's Mall Brawl. I see Rugrats, and I see like all these other ones that are coming out now, and I'm like, no, I want to get that and play that. And it's like a more reasonable way, especially with games now like Mr. Gimmick. That only was out in Europe, and limited runs doing a U.S. release for Gimmick now. So it's exactly how it would come out back in the day, box and everything with manual and inserts, but it just has limited run on it. You
Yeah.
know, so it's
So
like, oh, that's really cool.
have you played the Rugrats game yet?
I have not
Oh,
because
okay.
so I got it. I received it not that long ago. Well, a few months ago
You're
now.
too
But
scared to pop it
you
in,
know what
or
it was? I didn't even know that this was an issue.
yeah,
This just came out recently that it was an
yeah.
issue with it. So I have been so busy that it's just been on my backlog to play.
Okay.
So I like look at it like once a
You
week
got
and go, like,
lucky.
oh, I'm gonna
Yeah,
get to you
yeah,
someday, Rugrats. Like I'll play you. And then literally, this was what 2 weeks ago when that news broke. Yeah, I was actually picking up the game and going to play it that night, and then I saw the article before I played, and I was
It's
like, "You
because
gotta be
your
kidding me!"
it's because your iPhone was spying on you and knew what you were about to do, and then it forwarded the ad to you, so you knew,
It
what was
somehow
going
that
on.
happened, and
Yeah.
okay, that's the one time I agree with what my phone's doing.
Well, what was the other? You said there were two games that you were working on right now.
So, something I've been looking into now too is there's a lot of homebrew games that are actually kind of picking up steam, and they're starting to be made by actual developers, and they're games that push the limits of the Nintendo. And I love seeing somebody get really creative with how much memory they can use on the Nintendo and really get a game to kind of go to the next level.
Have you ever seen this?
Resident Evil NES, I've heard about it, but I've not
Yeah.
tried it.
I haven't played it yet.
Yeah,
I need to, but I had to have it. So we'll see if it's
it's
any
the
good.
one is it? Hold on, I have it right over here. It's in the box that just came the other day. It's called.
I think I only have really one other. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, this is the only other one I have. I don't know if you can read it, but it's Zelda: The Missing Link.
Oh, I've heard of that one.
Yeah. So again, I haven't played this one yet either.
Yeah, this one I picked up. It's called Full Quiet,
Okay.
and it's like a post-apocalyptic. You're a dad trying to get across. I think it's the United States in
Okay.
kind of like a zombie apocalypse style thing
Ah.
scenario, but you
Okay.
have to repair radio stations to get communications going out further. It's like a 20 something hour game apparently.
Okay.
And but you can look it up on YouTube. They have a full trailer for it, and um, it really impressed me. The music, the way that
Hmm.
it pushes the graphics on the system, the
Interesting.
gameplay. It's puzzles, adventure, open world almost. I
Yeah.
think too.
Another game kind of like that that I'm trying to get a hold of and get a copy of, and I'm not sure if you've heard of this, is Resident Evil 1.5. Are you familiar with
Yes,
that?
I've always
Yeah.
wanted to play that.
So I know a guy. I talked to a guy actually that has it last episode, and he has it, and it's just very hard to find. So if you can find it, it's definitely a grail for sure. But
Yeah,
uh,
it's that whole thing in and of itself is wild because I still remember back in I guess it was 19. It was probably 97, 98, just before Resident Evil 2 came out. Obviously, the all the magazines were doing articles on it, and what you saw was that game,
Yeah.
Resident
So
Evil
essentially,
1.5.
for people who don't know, Resident Evil 1.5 is basically they were developing Resident Evil 2, and then at some point they just scrapped it all and said, no, we're gonna take a different. It had different characters in it, if I'm not
Mhm.
mistaken, a
Yep.
different plot, different setting, all this stuff, and then they just scrapped it and did made what you see now as Resident Evil 2.
Yeah,
So
and I've always thought that what they scrapped might have been the better game too,
well,
because
there's theories that only 80% of it was completed. Some people say 60%. It's hard to say how much, what exists that's still out there of this game. So I'd be interested to see what it was. There was also another game I've seen Resident Evil related that's like a fighting game. I think is it called Crisis something? And it was, I don't
I
know,
don't think
but
I've ever heard of that one.
it's basically a fighting game. And so like, you're Leon and you're like shooting the gun at someone, or it's kind of like a side scroller. So
Really? Oh, that sounds kind of fun.
I guess it's more like a beat 'em up than a fighting game, really.
Yeah.
And you're like side scrolling. So I've seen some video of that one. Pretty interesting. I am personally right now. I'm playing through the second Spider-Man game.
Really?
Which I don't know if you've played any of those. Highly recommend them.
Yeah, I have. I've actually watched my son play. He's got the Miles Morales one,
Yep.
and that
Okay.
one blew my mind. I was like, oh man.
And the second one is gonna doubly blow your mind because
Yeah.
it's. So I played the first one. I liked the first one a lot. I played the Miles Morales one is a lot shorter. I feel like than the actual Spider-Man ones.
Yeah.
And then here in the second one, you have Spider-Man and Miles Morales as
Oh, okay.
two playable characters. But it's I don't want to spoil anything, but it's
Yeah.
very good. I'm at the final boss and I'm struggling, but hopefully I'll beat it soon.
Yeah, it just takes a little time.
Yeah. And I don't have a PlayStation, so I have not a Steam Deck, but if you've heard of a ROG Ally,
No, I
it's
haven't.
like so a ROG Ally is kind of like a Steam Deck, but it's more powerful in my
Okay.
opinion. And so you can play PC games on it. It's little handheld things. It doesn't always work with every game, but luckily it
Nice.
works with this.
Yeah.
So I've been
Yeah.
playing it on that.
Well, that's awesome.
It's about the only handheld game that I really play.
Yeah. The last handheld I played was I threw my Game Gear on for a little bit and I was playing some Sonic.
Yeah. I think people, who have watched maybe notice we didn't talk about, Game Boy games or DS games, how to spot fakes. And in my opinion, that's because I don't know, because I don't collect them and I don't look for them. And I think is that the same for you probably?
Yeah, I'm in the same spot. Like I have some of each. And the one thing that I tend to read up on the most on Reddit is that DS games are faked, like to
Yeah.
the umpteenth degree. Like it's just like I don't know
Pokemon in
why.
general too. Yeah. It's
Yeah, it blows my mind. And I guess maybe just because I'm an older gamer and like that's like the DS stuff is like not really something that like I'm going after. So it must just be because it's so popular and it's easy to fake. Like more people will be buying Pokemon on DS, so like you can get those fakes passed by people a little bit easier. Same thing goes for the Game Boy Advance games. Like a lot of those look like they're faked pretty often too.
I'm glad you mentioned Game Boy Advance. So I have this game. It has no. I bought a lot of games, and it came without a cover on it or a label, and so I have no idea what it is. It's for Game Boy Advance. If anyone wants to donate a Game Boy Advance to me, so I can pop this in and see what it is, who knows? It could be anything. And I'm very curious what it is. And the seller won't tell me. He says you need to get a Game Boy Advance, and I'm like, no, not for one game.
Yeah.
So hopefully it's something good, but it's probably something, like a $2 game, but who knows?
Yeah, and Puppy Dog Pals or something.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, well, again, I didn't really have a setup for how to do this show, because normally I do. Anything else that you want to talk about?
I think we covered a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to kind of go off on too much of a tangent because we did start it off with a somewhat set plan.
Yeah, set plan. There's always, your third episode and your fourth episode and your fifth episode that you can.
Yeah,
do
exactly.
those
So we got to
others.
save some. We can't put it all
For
on
the
the table.
5 Timers Club. Perfect. All right. Well, again, everybody, thanks for joining in. I hope that you guys learned something, either about cleaning games, about spotting reproductions. And again, we are, I don't consider myself an expert in any of that. So if you have comments, please leave them below. If you know someone who's an expert in spotting reproductions of things that we didn't talk about, let me know so I can get them on the show so we can share their knowledge. I'm desperately looking for someone to be on the show that can talk about, Game Boy or DS, how to spot fakes. So again, Matty, thanks for coming by for the
Yeah,
second time.
anytime.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
And we'll see you guys next time on Video Game Collectors on Call. Bye now.